The battlefield was a canvas of crimson and white. The stark contrast between the blood-soaked ground and the pristine snow created a hauntingly beautiful yet tragic scene. Each flake of snow that fell seemed to whisper the names of the fallen, a silent eulogy for those who would never rise again. Snow fell relentlessly, blanketing the fallen in a deceptively serene shroud. It was as if nature itself sought to cover the horrors of war, to hide the brutality beneath a layer of purity. The snowflakes danced in the air, indifferent to the suffering below, creating a surreal juxtaposition of peace and violence. The air reeked of iron and death. The metallic scent of blood mingled with the acrid smoke from the smoldering remains of the battlefield. It was a smell that clung to the skin, a reminder of the carnage that had unfolded. The ground was a treacherous mix of mud and blood, making every step a struggle. Amidst the carnage, a lone figure stirred. He moved with a slow, deliberate pace, each step heavy with the weight of loss. His eyes scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of life, any indication that he was not the last one standing. The silence was deafening, broken only by the crunch of snow beneath his boots. Imperial General Pang Qingyun, his armor shattered, coughed, blood staining the pristine snow. His breath came in ragged gasps, each one a painful reminder of his injuries. The once formidable general now looked like a ghost of his former self, his strength sapped by the relentless onslaught. Yet there was a fire in his eyes, a determination that refused to be extinguished. He had survived the ambush, a testament to his martial prowess, but at a terrible cost. His body bore the scars of countless battles, each one a story of survival, but this time, the cost had been too high. His loyal soldiers, men who had fought by his side for years, lay dead around him. The weight of their loss pressed down on him, a burden he would carry for the rest of his days. His loyal battalion lay decimated around him, victims of a cunning enemy and a war that had long lost its purpose. The faces of the fallen haunted him, each one a reminder of the lives cut short by the senseless violence. He had once believed in the cause, but now, standing amidst the ruins of his battalion, he questioned everything. What had they been fighting for? What had they truly gained? Despair threatened to consume him. It was a dark, insidious force whispering in his ear, telling him to give up, to let go. He fell to his knees, the weight of his grief too much to bear. The snow around him was stained with the blood of his comrades, a stark reminder of the price they had paid. He wanted to scream, to rage against the injustice of it all, but no sound came, only silence. What was the point of this endless bloodshed, this futile struggle for power? The question echoed in his mind, a relentless drumbeat that refused to be silenced. He had seen so much death, so much suffering, and for what? The lines on the map had shifted, but the pain remained. He had lost friends, brothers in arms, and for what? The thought gnawed at him, a constant reminder of the futility of it all. He had lost everything, his comrades, his purpose, his will to live. The battlefield was a graveyard, a testament to the futility of war. He stood alone, surrounded by the bodies of those who had fought and died by his side. The weight of their sacrifice pressed down on him, a burden he could not escape. He had once been a leader, a beacon of hope, but now he was just a man, broken and lost. As the icy tendrils of death crept closer, he closed his eyes, ready to embrace the cold embrace of oblivion. The snow was a blanket, a final comfort in his last moments. He could feel the life slipping away from him, the pain fading into a numbness that was almost welcome. He had fought for so long, and now he was ready to rest. The world around him faded, the sounds of the battlefield growing distant. A soft whimper pierced through the fog of his despair. His eyes flew open. The sound was faint, almost lost in the wind, but it was enough to pull him back from the brink. He listened, straining to hear it again. It was a cry, a plea for help. He forced himself to move, to push through the pain and the exhaustion. There was still someone out there, someone who needed him. A young woman, barely more than a girl, huddled near the ravaged remains of a supply wagon. She was a stark contrast to the devastation around her, a fragile flower in a field of death. Her eyes were wide with fear, her body trembling. She looked up as he approached, hope and terror mingling in her gaze. She was a survivor like him, but her ordeal was far from over. Her clothes were torn, her face streaked with tears and dirt. She had been through hell, and it showed. The innocence that should have been in her eyes was replaced with a haunted look, a reflection of the horrors she had witnessed. She clung to a tattered doll, a small piece of her childhood that had somehow survived the chaos. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that not everything was lost. Fear filled her eyes, yet she clung to a tattered doll, a symbol of innocence in this hellscape. The doll was a lifeline, a connection to a world that no longer existed. He knelt beside her, offering what little comfort he could. In that moment, he found a new purpose. He would protect her, no matter the cost. The war had taken so much from him, but it had also given him a reason to keep fighting. For her, he would endure. Lian, as the young woman introduced herself, was a refugee, orphaned by the very war that had ravaged Pang's soul. She had seen more than her fair share of suffering, her eyes reflecting the pain of countless lost dreams and shattered lives. Yet, there was a quiet strength in her, a resilience that defied the chaos around her. She had survived against all odds, navigating the treacherous landscape with a determination that belied her fragile appearance. He was a seasoned warrior, hardened by years of relentless conflict. His name was Pang, a man whose life had been defined by the battlefield. The scars on his body were a testament to the countless battles he had fought, each one leaving a mark on his soul. He had long since buried his emotions, numbed himself to the horrors of war, becoming a machine of survival. But meeting Lian had stirred something within him, something he thought he had lost forever. Yet, something in her innocent gaze, her quiet resilience, stirred a flicker of life within him. Her eyes, though filled with sorrow, held a glimmer of hope, a spark that refused to be extinguished. It was this spark that reached out to him, breaking through the walls he had built around his heart. In her presence, he felt a connection, a bond that transcended the brutality of their surroundings. He had promised himself he would not become another casualty of this senseless war. He had seen too many lives lost, too many dreams crushed. He had vowed to survive, to keep fighting, not just for himself, but for those who could no longer fight. And now, with Lian by his side, he found a new purpose. He would protect her, shield her from the horrors that had claimed so many others. She was his beacon of hope, a reason to keep going. Now he clung to a new purpose, to protect this fragile life, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. He knew the dangers that lay ahead, the challenges they would face, but he was determined to keep her safe, to be her guardian in this war-torn world. He would fight for her, with every ounce of strength he had left. In her, he saw a future worth fighting for, a glimmer of hope amidst the despair. He shared his meager rations with her, his gruff exterior slowly melting away as he listened to her simple tales of a life long gone. Her stories were a window into a world he had almost forgotten, a world of peace and innocence. As she spoke, he could see the person she had been before the war, a young girl with dreams and aspirations. Her voice, though tinged with sadness, was a reminder of the life that still existed beyond the battlefield. Her spirit, unbroken despite the horrors she had witnessed, ignited a spark of hope within him. She was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a beacon of light in the darkness. Her defiance in the face of adversity was inspiring, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could still shine through. She gave him strength, a reason to keep fighting, to keep believing in a better future. She reminded him of the humanity that still existed amidst the brutality, the future he was fighting for. In her, he saw the possibility of a world without war, a world where people could live in peace. She was a symbol of everything he had been fighting for, a reminder of the life he had once dreamed of. Her presence was a beacon of hope, a light that guided him through the darkness. Lian, in turn, saw beyond the blood-soaked armor and the hardened exterior. She saw the man beneath the warrior, a man who had been shaped by the horrors of war but who still held on to his humanity. She saw his pain, his struggles, and his determination to protect her. In his eyes, she saw a reflection of her own strength, a kindred spirit who understood her pain and shared her hope for a better future. She saw a protector, a weary soul seeking solace. She saw a man who had been through hell, but who still had the strength to keep going. In him, she found a sense of security, a feeling of safety that she had not felt in a long time. He was her guardian, her protector, and she was his reason to keep fighting. Together, they were a beacon of hope in a world torn apart by war. She shared her stories, her dreams of a peaceful life, and unknowingly breathed life back into his weary heart. Her words were a balm to his soul, a reminder of the life he had once dreamed of. She spoke of a world without war, a world where people could live in peace and harmony. Her dreams were a reflection of his own, a vision of a future that seemed almost impossible, but that he was determined to fight for. In her presence, the battlefield seemed less desolate, the burden of survival a little lighter. She was his anchor, his reason to keep going. With her by his side, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to keep fighting for a better future. Together, they were a beacon of hope, a glimmer of light in the darkness, and in that glimmer they found the strength to keep going, to keep believing in a better tomorrow. Their paths crossed with two other survivors, Jiang Wuyang, a cunning strategist with a silver tongue, and Zhao Erhu, a towering brute with the strength of a bear. Jiang, initially suspicious of the battle-scarred general, saw an opportunity to exploit Pang's skills for his own ambitions. Zhao, wary of both, remained loyal to the only person who hadn't betrayed him, his stomach. Pang, despite his reservations, recognized the necessity of allies in this fight for survival. He needed information, supplies, a way out of this war-torn wasteland. Jiang, ever the opportunist, offered his services, promising safe passage in exchange for Pang's protection. Their initial interactions were a delicate dance of probing questions and veiled threats. Pang, hardened by years of war, saw through Jiang's charming facade but recognized his intellect. Jiang in turn was both intrigued and intimidated by Pang's quiet strength and the unwavering loyalty he inspired in the hulking Zhao. Their newfound alliance was put to the test sooner than expected. The bonds they had hastily formed were about to be strained to their limits as the harsh reality of their situation came crashing down upon them. A company of Taiping rebels, their eyes gleaming with fanaticism, descended upon a nearby village, intent on looting and burning. The villagers, caught off guard, scrambled to protect their homes and loved ones, but the rebels showed no mercy. Pang, his instincts taking over, rallied his unlikely comrades to defend the innocent. He shouted commands, his voice cutting through the chaos, as he organized the villagers and his new allies into a makeshift defense force. Outnumbered and outmatched, they fought with the fury of cornered animals. Every swing of their weapons was a desperate attempt to hold back the tide of destruction. The air was thick with the sounds of clashing steel and the cries of the wounded. Pang, a whirlwind of blades cut through the enemy ranks, his every move honed by years of experience. His sword danced in the firelight, each strike precise and deadly as he carved a path through the chaos. Jiang, using his cunning and knowledge of the terrain, outmaneuvered their opponents, leading them into carefully planned ambushes. His strategic mind was a beacon of hope in the midst of the turmoil, turning the tide of battle in their favor. Zhao, a human battering ram, smashed through enemy lines, his raw strength making up for his lack of finesse. His powerful charges broke the enemy's formations, creating openings for his comrades to exploit. The battle raged throughout the night, a chaotic whirlwind of steel and firelight. The darkness was punctuated by the flashes of clashing weapons and the glow of burning buildings, casting eerie shadows on the combatants. When the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the companions stood victorious, exhausted but alive. The village, though scarred by the conflict, had been saved from total destruction, thanks to their valiant efforts. They had faced death together and emerged bloodied but unbowed, their bonds forged in the crucible of combat. The trials they had endured had transformed them from a group of strangers into a true brotherhood, united by their shared struggle and newfound respect for one another.